It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the stories, beginning with Daily Trust newspaper. It has quite interesting stories. The lead story, presidency, NUPRC fracas puts $1.28 billion Seplat ExxonMobil deal in limbo. It has the writers that says how PIA empowers commission on business deals. Why we oppose president's approval. That's according to the NUPRC. Parties must follow regulations, according to experts. We have other stories there besides the pictorial. Basically, the pictorial is about the Electoral Commission officials. They count votes after the official closing of polls during the Kenya's general election at Matare Social Hall in Nairobi, Kenya, and that's yesterday. We also have stories beside that. We've arrested our church attackers, defense chief. Kenyan presidential poll, ballot counting begins as voting ends. Oil subsidy, reps summon finance minister, give 1 week ultimatum. And then the stories above the lead story, allow attacks on national assets and be sanctioned. NSCDC CG warns commandants. Republicans react as FBI agents raid Trump's Florida home. Residents scamper for safety as bandits strike in Katsina metropolis. You also have below the pictorial, Atiku, Wike's dispute stalls composition of PDP campaign council. Candidate considers Makinde Tambuwal for DG post. I can perform well in or out of PDP, Rivers governor. So these are the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper.
Now let's take a look at the This Day newspaper. The This Day newspaper has a story that says, from the DHQ, we have arrested suspects of our Catholic Church attack. It has a writer that says, rules out use of mercenaries in the fight against terrorists. Insist Abuja is safe. Akeredolu confirms arrest of 5 suspected church attackers. Afenifere welcomes development. Above that, we have a story that says how Buhari shut down $480 million Paris Club refund. The writer says President sets up committee to review case. FEC agrees it's insensitive to current realities. All right, there's also the story here that says dollar crisis, Nigeria rated most crypto-obsessed nation in the world. Right above that, federal government to Nigerians, don't allow another civil war in the country. And then beneath the last headline there says, Wike insults elders, bullies others, alleges, this is coming from the governor's estranged ally. These are the major stories on the This Day newspaper.
All right, so let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. Quite a number of stories there. The lead story says, Wike's romance with Tinubu's men rattles Amechi's base. It has the writers that says, Wike desperate for alliance with Tinubu wants protection after 2023, Rivers APC says. Amechi unhappy about Abe's closeness to Tinubu, says ex-minister's associate. Rivers governor free to join APC, Shitu. Wike, Atiku's loyalist, trade blame. You have also, above the masthead, settle with ASU now, Vice Chancellor's beg FG. Diesel hike, NRC reduces Lagos-Ibadan trips by 67%. FG inaugurates council to retrieve Ajakuta, others. You also have reps summon finance minister over subsidy, query NNPC. Below the pictorial, FG issues 1.9 million passports, inaugurates production center. 5 arrested over our attack, governor warns kidnappers. Lagos-Ibadan traffic, miscreants rob motorists, police deny abduction. Corona indicts regulatory bodies over Ikoyi building collapse. So these are the stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
Now let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper has a lead story that says Wike remains boastful as cracks emerge in his party. We have a writer that says Maiba, Opara, Omeha fall out with Wike over Atiku. Then there's another writer there. No move to divide Rivers PDP, says Atiku camp. Abe to Wike, don't turn Rivers to dark days of toxic politics. Maiba accuses Wike of working against Atiku. And then we also have another story here that says INEC denies recognizing Lawan Akpabio as senatorial candidates. Akeredolu CDS confirm arrest of our church attackers. Then above here, just beneath the masthead, we have broadband penetration hits 44.5% as NCC reviews short code services. NAS wants political merchants restate focus on good governance. There's also the story here. Reps begins fuel subsidy probe, subpoenas minister. Also on The Guardian, 2023 tension as Taraba government sanctions 3 monarchs, 25 workers. These are the major stories on The Guardian newspaper.
All right, and on The Nation newspaper this morning, the lead story says 5 suspects, 1 accomplice held over our church attack. You also have Irabo. It says Nigeria does not need mercenaries. We have been trailing attackers, says Akeredolu. You have also above the masthead, FRS demands 1 trillion naira tax remittance from MDAs. 15 states fail to implement 30,000 naira wage for teachers. RCCG ordains over 15,000 ministers at 70th convention. Ondo Assembly declares 2 seats vacant. So I think these are the stories. One more, I can sway Rivers voters, Wike boast. So these are some of the stories on The Nation newspaper this morning.
Now on to the Blueprint newspaper. The Blueprint newspaper has a lead story that says, we have arrested masterminds of our church attack, Irabo. The first writer says, unveils identity of culprits to be paraded soon. Assures 2023 polls will hold as scheduled. Commandants to be held responsible for attacks on government facilities. This is coming from the NSCDC. 20,000 Shimfida Katsina IDPs return home. We also have a story here that says, 4 killed in Ilorin courts rival clash. Northern APC stakeholders reject Lalong as Tinubu's campaign DG. Also beneath that, we have Lagos, the stories from Lagos. Cleric, 1 order to die by hanging for using 7-year-old for ritual. Then we also have the story here, broadband penetration hits 45.5%. And just beneath here, Buhari loads Yusuf Ali at 60. Then just right below the Blueprint masthead, we have Nemasa pays law firm over $5 million for services not rendered. These are the major stories on the Blueprint for today.
All right. So let's get perspectives on some of the stories now. Like we introduced earlier, Ben Sherman, Director of News Voice of Nigeria, is with us in the studio as our guest reviewer. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Quite interesting stories this morning. One that caught my attention is the Owo church attack suspects that were arrested. I recall that back in June, we had Amotekun said that suspects have been arrested with regards to our church attack. So I'm a bit of I'm wondering though, at the time, the identities of those that were arrested wasn't revealed at the time. So perhaps, is it the same people that were arrested then and now being represented? I'm just curious.
Yes, I think your curiosity is being answered by the Chief of Defense Staff. General Loki Rabo. Yesterday he spoke with senior editors, and of course he was saying those arrested were even supposed to be paraded before the media people yesterday, but at a point they felt, look, they parade them on a different day, but said their own leader is of the ISWAP, and he was definite about it. So he, of course, gave some little biographies of those people, where they come from, and so it's so detailed. And some of the activities they've been carrying and where they've been carrying, he was able to say all of that. So you remember when it happened, some people were quick at saying, look, it's this or that group that did it. The point ISWAP said they were responsible, and of course now we are hearing from the defense headquarters they have caught some people. They are in the net. They will soon be paraded before Nigerians.
So we can say for sure that ISWAP are actually behind those attacks.
Sure, because we don't have any other superior information, and it's coming from the chief of our defense staff. He is the boss of them all when it comes to security. And from his mouth, I think I was there, yeah, when he said all of these things. And he was questioned. And of course, he insisted in all of this. And he said, look, we would have simply brought them. And usually, you know the way they do, they can also allow the press to interrogate them. And that also brings some kind of credence as to allowing you to get a feeler from those people.
All right. The incident happened on June 5th. Today is August 10th, and now we already have suspected, the people that allegedly committed this thing. Will you say that the investigation was, will you say that the quest to find these people was quick? Or do you think that it could have been done, it could have been faster?
Yeah, you see, the thing with the military is that even when we want information so quick, so fast, served onto us, they have to take time to do their job. And usually, when they carry attacks in a group, they disperse. And it will go different way. Imagine some key Boko Haram guys, arrested in Ogun State. One was already employed as a chief security man in a company. And so when they attack, of course, they disperse. When they disperse and they are now on the trail, of course, when you get one, you begin to look at the telephone contacts, you begin to trace communication. It involves GSM providers that will also provide data, because at that point, the law allows security agencies to monitor conversations, see text messages. Some of these texts we delete still, they still stay in the data of the GSM companies for quite a long time before they get finally deleted by the system. So the time they have taken from June to now, June, July, August, about 3 months, you see that it has to be a painstaking kind of a job to ensure that not the wrong person is arrested. So if they have come out to say this is it, it also means they've reached somewhere. But there could be some accessories after the event. When somebody is being arrested, at the point of questioning, they begin to mention some other people. We met in so place, and that place was facilitated by another person. So you see the dragnet once cast, you begin to just grab and see what.
Do you think that if the military is able to always arrest and find the perpetrators of all these attacks that we have across the country, do you think that it will have an effect on the security situation, general security situation?
Surely, you see, when they dominate, when they catch, when they bring to trial, of course, it brings some kind of confidence. And that's why even the same chief of defense staff, when asked, with all of this, do we have some fears when it comes to the elections 2023? He said, no, they will try to do their best, and of course, they will ensure it is done. So, if they want to do a thorough job, and of course, as he said, we are ready, talking of the military, to ensure that this is done. And the question was even asked as to if they would need some assistance by way of mercenaries. The man said, look, we are capable. Give us the material, we have the men on ground, and you bring in mercenaries who indeed are after their salaries. And they won't want to earn their job a kind of. So if they end the job, what happens? So they begin to prolong it, as you can see in what is happening in Burkina Faso and Mali. They brought in the Wagner, and Wagner is busy also attacking civilians. Some big destructions going on. And the time they gave as to when they will finish this, they don't want to finish because they are receiving in dollars. So they don't want
Well,
to.
that's entirely another argument.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we delve into that, I'm sure there are those who will be arguing against some of the points that you are raising.
But sometimes when you see the pride of the military, sometimes they say, look, we can do it, just give us the material.
But looking at the identities of the suspects that have been arrested, for instance, if you look at the Nation newspaper, some names have been displaced as the suspects, displaced on the front page of the newspaper: Idris Oja, Jimo Ibrahim, Idris Abdul Malik, Momo Abubakar, Aliyu Itopa, Awal Onimisi. Does this suggest anything about...
There's also one Omeza in it.
Yes, so does this suggest anything about the makeup of ISWAP members?
I recall a very senior journalist saying, hey, all these names are from my side, going by this name. Oh, my people, a kind of. So you see, but terrorism is not limited to just a tribe or a religion or a region. Bad people are all over the place. Good people are, I believe, more than the bad people. Going by these names, yeah, you can infer, yes, these people come from these areas. Now, it's now left for the security agencies to go into some profiling. And you begin to know antecedents. Where has this one been? Who are his friends? You monitor, as we again said, because the law allows them to track, do some tracking of their conversations, do some tracking of their movements, and of course you begin to look at even their financial statements in every bank to see what it looks like. Very juicy. You begin to also know, it gives you an idea about if there is financial or terrorism sponsorship, and where is this money coming in, the inflow. Then you look at the outflow, sent to who, for what purpose, and that's why when you do some transfers, they tell you the narration there. This money is for what?
Okay. So just briefly before we move on to another story, was there any mention as to the charges that are going to be placed on them and when they will be charged to court and the rest of them, the legal processes?
No, they didn't mention when, but it was a matter of very soon. Maybe some legal issues ensured, or there was they realized that some other gaps were being, some information that needed to be tackled, maybe, but as per the date, for them to be brought to the court, it wasn't.
But wouldn't you say that it would be good for it to be done as quick as possible? Because a lot of times people have said that it is the fact that people are not seen to be punished for their crimes is also an incentive for more crimes in the country.
I agree with you, but you see, like the military will say, it starts mostly with the civilians. And it's when it has gone too bad that you call in the military. And the military they are not a negotiating institution. They are not diplomats. Theirs is to shoot and kill because you have so given them the opportunity. But look at those they've arrested. There are so many. Look at Boko Haram that because of the pressure being brought onto them, even in Sambisa forest, see how many of those Chibok ladies are just escaping now. You have a very large population of people who have surrendered. And some, of course, surrendered genuinely. Some were overpowered, some were arrested, and some are still very, very adamant, and they are still believe in their kind of religion. And so, again, society is worried. Do you just release these people to society? And by the time you hold them in a facility where the number is even more than the military, what are the security implications? Bearing in mind that these are people who have been trained in guerrilla tactics and warfare in the bushes, and they are really anti-human beings. And you look at the way they have been fed, well fed, when indeed we also have soldiers in the trenches who need this feeding. So it is a very big issue for the Nigerian authorities, especially the political class. When the soldiers arrest this and they are being camped, they are being trained. Now, when they are being trained, what really is the kind of training? What are the facilities? What are the startup facilities being given to them so that they can be responsible people in society? And are we ready to receive them? Bearing in mind that even thieves that are in the family that have been imprisoned for 6 months, you release them back in the family, they are being seen as belonging down there to the men of the underworld. Now you have terrorists who have killed, destroyed. They're saying we are releasing them to society. So it has to be a lot of homework, orientation, reorientation to ensure that people accept these people.
All right. So we are seeing also another story here on the front page of the Nation newspaper, how 15 states failed to implement a 30,000 naira minimum wage for teachers. This is worrisome, isn't it? 15 states, that's a high number.
Very.
Looking at the fact that the 30,000 naira minimum wage for almost 2 years now since that bill was passed. So how is it that we still have 15 states unable to pay? Or is it, well, are they unable to pay, or is it just the will not to pay? And how will this impact on the, teachers?
Or both, unable to pay and the will to pay. Because if you cut down costs in many other areas, the cost of governance, cost of entertainment, cost of conferences, cost of running some government activities in government houses, you see that you pay teachers. And we're talking of the very basic when it comes to trying to build a foundation. You see in some states in the north, some structures are just there, so ideal. But when it comes to the teachers, teacher quality, teacher content, and even the curriculum is just not there. I've seen that the searchlight is so much on Borno, where indeed they've seen him as a standard bearer when it comes to physical development of that state, and even the schools, especially primary school, secondary school. At the point he went on a surprise visit, he met a lady seated and waiting for pupils. He said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm a teacher, and of course, from where? It happened to be an Igbo lady who was waiting for pupils. So salary was bad, and for it, the man took some
Well, it's the
steps.
same Borno that we were hearing just a few days ago, that someone was there was something on social media suggesting teachers are paid as low as 6,000 naira.
Very. I saw that, and that was why I said the searchlight was on him on a very wrong side. So if you check the kind of structures, physical structures, when it comes to education, primary, secondary, in Borno, I tell you, I want to see how many states, very few can beat him. And when you come to the case of Kaduna State,
is it a structure that is affecting the that is responsible for the non-payment of the salaries?
Yeah, you see, that was why I said you have to balance it. You can't pay so much attention to structure to the extent that the teachers who will teach in those schools are not taken care of. You have the best of the classrooms, best of furniture, best of everything, but the teacher is left uncatered for, and it's applicable to many states.
Aside teachers, in many states, they're not paying this 30,000 minimum wage to even other workers, not necessarily just teachers. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, you see, because it's like the law. Many people will break the law, they don't get arrested, but one person will break that same day, he's arrested. And so what am I trying to say? Yes, it is a general application to many states. Just a few have indeed doubled that minimum wage, kind of. If you go to Kaduna State, virtually every time teachers, especially primary school teachers, are always on focus. And if you check, you see that at the point they said they needed professional teachers, some people sat down in Kaduna and did some sacking, like merely ticking. And in some schools, entire school, all the teachers were sacked.
Well, some people said it was because they failed exams.
They failed exam, I mean, so how will you now close schools? I can take you, Stella, to some schools here in just after Buhari here, and you see, I know in Chori Chawe, in Kauru local government, I've been there, I saw pupils hanging. What was happening? After sacking everyone, they posted a lady, just one lady. She's the headmistress, she's the assistant, she's the classroom teacher for every, I mean, I at the point I snapped that school, I said, something should be done. I don't know whether they've done something now. It's that serious. If you check here in Abuja, sorry, just a moment. If you check here in Abuja, you go and see how many people have been recruited under the education sector in FCT here. And they are not teachers, they are not administrators, they just receive salaries, when indeed schools need teachers. So why didn't you just recruit professionals to fill in the gaps?
Yes, but that takes time, isn't it? It takes process, right?
To recruit, it takes a process. It's not like trying to plan a coconut tree.
You know, what you are likely to get, you know, in his defense, I'm not speaking for him, but the explanation that you are likely to get is that recruiting teachers takes time, and that to fix anything, you have to break it. To fix anything, you have to, you know, kind of destroy what has been. So what would you say to that?
Well, if you say recruiting teachers take a long time, I would rather say no. But revamping the education sector can take a long time because of the destruction. See what ASU is doing now, and I tell you, it's not going to be so easy so soon for Nigeria.
Revamping the education sector includes getting the right kind of teachers, quality teachers.
I mean,
to impact knowledge.
Yes. Are we saying that
a teacher who is failing exams can hardly impact knowledge?
Well, it depends on who is setting the exam. It depends on what standard. It depends on if the goalpost is also permanent. Because if you shift the goalpost, today is narrow, tomorrow is wider and getting wider. And when you say 70% is the pass mark, then there is another standard. But I do know that quite a lot of things are wrong when it comes to the basics, primary education.
Right. So
teacher education is no longer there. How many teacher training colleges are there? Yet we want standard education. Technical colleges, how many are there? Yet we want nice education. 6334 system that is supposed to be the basic in terms of training, in terms of basic technology, in terms of everything, is just not being followed.
All right, another story that's virtually almost on all the front pages is the story of PDP versus Wike, and the flag bearer of the party, Atiku Abubakar. It seems to be making headlines almost daily these days. And I'm wondering how important that is to our national conversation when we have much more important issues to actually deal with. I mean, why the focus? Why the focus on the PDP and its fracas?
Yeah, you see, why the focus on PDP? Why the focus on Wike? Of course, Wike is an attention grabber. It's a headline grabber. And of course, sometimes you get these headlines positively or negatively. And for a very long time, at the point, Wike even refused to talk. His refusing to talk was also news. He's talking, it is also news. But you see, at the point, if you look at it, you could be gauging, moving somewhere, see the romance he's now having with the opposition party. Now look at the interpretation. They're saying if Asiwaju wins, he wants to have soft landing. EFCC will not go after him. These are thinking of people. But I'm also saying that there should be a limit as to where you belong, and you begin to cast aspersion to it. Where I come from, they said it's an offense for you to point at your father's house with left hand and say, that is his house. Just say, this is our house, you embrace it. So if Wike is feeling that he could rattle his own presidential candidate, he could rattle the party. Of course, the party also has constitution, and of course that also look at what some of the APC, PDP members in Rivers are saying. The conduct or alleged misconduct by the governor is also giving some fears, and the constitution will say where there is a crisis, you can port. So if you create the crisis, it also means you can leave the party. And
All
of course, so I think it doesn't augur well for democracy. It doesn't teach our young students who indeed are watching to be politicians, who indeed are going to be mentors politically. If it's just going to be this much slinging here and there, I think it shouldn't just be.
All right. I would like you to comment on this story on the Daily Trust newspaper. Presidency NUPRC fracas puts $1.28 billion Seplat ExxonMobil deal in limbo. Now, I mean, I'm sure you have been following the forth and back that has been going on. The president assented to the purchase of the stake by Seplat. The regulatory commission is saying that, oh no, it's a regulatory matter. We had earlier declined assent. We had earlier said that this should not be approved and all of that. What do you think? And why do we have this forth and back between the two?
We have this forward and back thing because some people are not reading the law very well. Stella, can the president sit down here today and appoint a Chief Justice of the Federation? He cannot. There has to be a process. Now, the regulatory agency is saying, yes, it is our job when it comes to contracts of this nature.
Yes, but the president is the Minister of Petroleum, right?
The president
and the role
is the
of
minister.
The regulatory
it does
body
not mean
is
that
advisory,
isn't it?
So you can give an advice that
by,
will not be taken.
Well, we advise based on the law, and if the law says there is you want to sell the assets of ExxonMobil to Seplat, and Seplat is of course indigenous. Some people will feel they should have it. But if there are cutting of corners, and irrespective of who is cutting the corner, and the people are standing on their ground, yes, as the president is president of the country, he's also Minister of Petroleum. It also follows that all agencies under the petroleum industry are under his supervision. But again, there are laws. If the law says this is how it should be done, so it should be followed. If the law says the president, I doubt if...
Let's not forget that the president himself is the one that pushed for the PIA itself. So is he now going to be breaking the laws, the very laws he pushed for, the signing of them?
So if the president gave money via the Federal Executive Council and they built another River Niger bridge, he will wake up today and say, no, it was during my regime, so I have the right to break it, I have the right to scatter it. And so I think that the president is also a man of the law. Somebody probably did not tell him or advise him very well. And I know the Minister of Justice, Malami, is learned enough. He's senior advocate of Nigeria. And I'm sure this thing will not linger too long because it will say a lot when indeed Nigeria is looking for money. Look at how much is being lost. 1.2 billion US dollars.
Right.
It's not small amount.
That's not small. Thank you so much. It's a good place to end the discussion on our newspapers this morning. We appreciate you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Our guest reviewer has been Ben Sherman, the Director of News Voice of Nigeria. And with that, we'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at the headlines again for today. Please stay with us.
When the situation where you find that